So, welcome to the Sales Navigator for Salesforce training. For today, Marianne's going to be taking you through the app, and what we're going to try to get out of this today is some basic settings. We're going to be seeing how to import your data. We're going to be viewing and organizing the data on the map, and scheduling and routing, as well as how to log tasks and activities. So, I will pass it off to Marianne, and we'll get started.
All right.
Great, and just bear with me a moment while I get our screen set up here. Can you see Sales Navigator now on the screen, everyone?
Yep.
Great. Okay. And please feel free to interrupt with any questions along the way so that you get the most out of this session.
By the way, who is on the session? Is it just you, myself, and Calvin?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just checking.
So Ryan, I've already launched the Sales Navigator for Salesforce app. So as you know, that's indicated by the blue icon in the App Store. And that's our special version that's integrated with Salesforce.com. And as you experienced when you first launched the app, you're prompted for your Salesforce credentials so that you can sign in, and that links our app to your Salesforce org. And it also applies all of the permissions that have been set up for you from your Salesforce administrator to the app as well. When you launched, you probably got a couple of quick prompts from the app. So the app just asks you to allow access, the Sales Navigator to allow access to your location while using the app, allow access to your calendar. So you can just tap yes for all of those. And it'll also ask you if you want the app to access your device contacts. So that's an option for you. What it would do would be sync with any contacts you have on your iPad or iPhone. Perhaps at some point you want to see some personal contacts there, or save a contact from the app to your device. That would allow you to do so. So that's another option you have upon launch. And then you would get to, let me just hide the menu there. The app would show the map on your screen. So I'll zoom out. And our menu can be expanded. It's the lower left-hand corner icon. It brings up the menu. So Ryan, it sounds like you were able to launch the app and get this far at least.
Yeah, I was actually already. I had already created all my groups from the non-Salesforce version of the app, and I already started classifying people. I'm almost done.
Great.
So,
Okay. Well, I'll show you some other grouping options you'll have now with this version. So hopefully
okay, great.
That will be helpful as well. So let's start with importing your data then, which it sounds like you probably already did. But to do so, you would tap on the Salesforce option of the menu. You can see it highlighted right now. That would be your first step. Now, this is just our sort of demo account setup. So we just have some of the basic standard objects. So for today's purposes, I've downloaded some accounts and leads. So right here, the first screen you'll see will show you a list of the standard and custom objects that have been configured for you to view within the app. Now, as you know, we're starting off with your pilot with just using the standard objects to start. So for example, my accounts, when I tap on accounts, I'll now see a list of all of the views that I have within Salesforce under the account object. So views are really created within your Salesforce org. Some users create them themselves, others have Salesforce administrators create them. And they really are meant to help users that have very large contact sets to sort of filter down data in different groupings, if you will. So I don't know if this applies to you in your case, if you just have all of your accounts or if you have different views set up. Either way, you can import whatever you wish. The only rule of thumb here is that each view must have less than 2,000 records to be imported. And and that's a Salesforce.com constraint that we work under. You can have more than 2,000 records in the app, as you can import multiple views, but just each view must have less than 2,000 records.
Okay.
So in my case, I have a view called Illinois Manufacturing and Construction, and I've already imported them into the app, as you can see. And then the same way, I brought some of my leads into the app. Once again, I imported my Illinois leads. So in your case, if you have different objects you want to work with within the app, you just simply tap on them and then import them. Usually, I would say based on which latest device you might have, the app performs well up to about 7,000 records in it. And at that time, it just might experience some slowing down if you've imported more than that amount.
Okay.
So that is the import process. You can see all of those accounts and leads are now showing up on my map. They will show up originally with the icons that Salesforce uses. So you can see the purple file folders are my accounts and the orange icons are my leads. And we'll get into momentarily how you can set up different types of markers and do some different grouping. But that's really where you start with your data. Then before I delve into the data, I just wanted to show you the calendar feature, because right now you can see my app says Friday, February 24th. So I was going to plan for a sales trip tomorrow. By tapping on the date in the menu, you open up the calendar and it'll show you the current date as well as whatever date you might want to display on your map. So right now I have the 24th selected. So for that date, I'll see actual appointments that I've already set up with the time icon, as you can see. Now, right now, I only have 1 day's range of appointments displaying on my map. And that's what the section right under the calendar designates, where it says map 1 day. I can tap on that. And you can see I have a number of choices of the range that I would like to view on my map. So this would allow you to see past meetings, future meetings on your map, which is just helpful. You know, if you're going to be back in an area in a couple weeks, you might want to see what you already have planned. It might help you decide who you might want to see today versus, you know, your next trip to the area. So for example, I'll just tap on a month. And now as I zoom out, you can see I can see other appointments that I've had in the past or upcoming for that month. Okay. So that's just one option that you can customize as you wish. I'm just going to go back to 1 day for now, just to keep our map a little cleaner. So any questions so far just about importing data or, viewing your calendar?
Nope, not
Okay.
yet. No, I kind of am going back and forth as you're doing things, and it's helpful. This is great.
And I know you've used our other version of our app in the past, so I know some of this might be a little repetitive, and you're already familiar with it. So hopefully it's just a quick review for you on those topics.
Yep.
Just going down the list. So list by name is the next menu item, and that's where you'll see all of the data you just imported. So in my case, here's a list of all my contacts and leads that I've imported into the app. And I can tap on any to open up the data record, or I can do a search. So I'm going to pull a specific account up that I want to look at, Stuart Ames. When I tap it from the list, the account record will show up. Same way, if I tap the pin, the same account record would show up. This will display all of the data that I have resident in Salesforce. So this is drawing from that Salesforce database. And actually, we can work with your Salesforce administrator. Sometimes there's just, a huge amount of fields for each record. If there's just certain data points you need to see while traveling, there's a way that we can limit what fields show up in Sales Navigator just to keep it simple and straightforward. So we've tried to make as much of the data actionable as possible. So for example, I could tap on the website link and I would jump right to my client's website to view it before going to visit them. and then I just hit done in the lower right-hand corner, and I'm right back in the app. Same way, if I had an email address here for my client, I could tap the email address and send an email to my client from the app. And actions like those, which I'll get into in a little bit as I sort of go through the actual activity of planning my day and meeting clients. Just wanted to stop to note here that actions that I take in the app will be synced back into Salesforce. So for example, when I just mentioned emailing from the app, which has been set up for your team, that email then would get logged as a completed activity in Salesforce. So once I start carrying out some functions, I'll show you how the syncing works.
Marianne, I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed, okay, so some of the accounts, and that's what I'm going to be sending over to Mike today on a spreadsheet, and he's going to upload all my accounts because I, quite frankly, haven't put them in Salesforce yet because I've been waiting to get the app.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the only thing that I see are groups and the pin that I've associated with that group. Once he creates an account in Salesforce, will my view look similar to yours, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the key is the account has to be created in Salesforce in order to do any of the stuff that you're going to review with me today, right?
Exactly, yes, because we're pulling off of the Salesforce data.
Okay, just double checking.
Yep. So if you've already imported information, if there's updates to it, I would suggest you can just go back to that Salesforce tab, and this is probably a good standard thing you should do every day as you're using the app. You can tap refresh all data, and that'll update it as well. But now if he's creating some new views, you might want to just import a whole view again.
Yeah, no, so what I'm going to do is it's going to be kind of a remedial task. It's just going to be, I have to just take all the data on my contacts list now, put them into a spreadsheet, just name, address, and he'll create the account for me so I don't manually have to do everything. Apparently there's a quick way that he can do that in Salesforce. And then all the accounts that I had in Sales Navigator will now all be in Salesforce, and then I'll be able to do everything that you're doing. But I haven't done that yet because I was I was holding off until we got the app. So.
And then just something to think about as you create your spreadsheet. Any other fields that you have in the account, in your account records for your company, like if you have a rating or industry, or if there's any other data points that are important to you, if you build that into your spreadsheet now, it will populate into Salesforce and then flow through into the app.
Perfect.
So just a little, pre-planning will help you get as much info as possible into the app for you.
Okay.
And then one other quick look I just wanted to show you here. Anytime you see that, if you see the billing address area, that arrow icon, that'll jump you right into Apple Maps where you can get turn-by-turn directions. And we'll get into that as I sort of travel through my day.
Okay.
Then there's a number of icons around this account record, and we'll be sort of utilizing those as I plan my day. But I wanted to note that there's 2 places that you can jump right into Salesforce if you have connectivity. One is show related objects, sort of in the middle of the record. If you tap on that, you'll jump right into your Salesforce org. And in this case, for our account object, it's showing me any other related standard objects to our account. So for example, it'd show me accounts, contacts associated with this account, and it's going to show me any activity history, notes, opportunities, etc. So I can see that. Right now I only have a contact related to this account. I'm going to do some work and then we'll see where it all shows up here. And it'll, so this is an actual Salesforce page.
Now that view that's in Salesforce is not, tell me if this is going to make sense, that view in Salesforce that you're looking at right now, that is not the view that you get when you're utilizing the Salesforce app. So when I'm in Sales Navigator and I click what you just clicked, am I going to see this view, or is it going to look different?
For an account, it should look similar. The only thing that would look different is if you have some different objects set up. I see that you have a very sophisticated setup within Salesforce, so you might have your projects, or you might have other things here associated with your account.
Okay.
But for the most part, it would look like this layout.
Okay, great.
And I just tapped the word map to get right back to Sales Navigator. The other place you can jump into Salesforce is at the edit link at the very top of the record to the right of the word account. And you'll see this on any type of record, if it's an account, a lead, project. This will jump right back into Salesforce, and it opens up that actual record within Salesforce, so you could make any changes if you need to, while you're out on the road. So let's say I just met with this client. I've been trying to collect employee counts for each of my clients, so they have 2,000 employees. I can just enter it here and scroll to the bottom and save. So that's now just saved it here in Sales Navigator, and it's also saved it within Salesforce.
Great.
So those are the two places that you can interact directly with Salesforce from the app: show related objects, and then the edit button.
And I'm assuming you can add contacts from there. We don't need to go into depth, but when you click on edit or show related objects, would you be able to add contacts? Let's say you meet someone new, to just very quickly edit the account and update it.
Whoops. Excuse me. Actually, it's set up that you cannot add a contact from the app, and that's really based on, you could put notes. You can add a contact to the app that wouldn't flow into Salesforce, but from input just based on Salesforce administrators, it seems that all sort of new data, they usually want to flow through them as being sort of the source for inputting it. So you cannot add a new contact right into the app. If you have that permission within your Salesforce org, you can log into Salesforce and add the information. But we don't take it directly to the app, and it's just based on sort of the way that a lot of companies operate and wanted that information to flow directly into Salesforce to start with.
Okay, good to know.
So that's a high-level overview of the contact record. As I said, as I sort of go through my actual planning of the day, you'll see me use a number of these icons in a little more depth. I'm just going to go back to the menu. One last thing I just wanted to show you before we actually set up some appointments and go through the routing and optimization. This is filter by groups. So now here you'll see two types of groups. And groups or filters are meant to really help you prioritize how you want to view your data on the map. So if you have a large number of accounts in an area, how can we help you really prioritize who to try to visit? So the two types of groups that you now have available to you are Salesforce groups and custom groups. So let's start with the Salesforce automatic groups. When you first bring in your data, you'll see they are assigned their own little group and marker. So for example, I brought in some accounts and leads, and specifically the views that I brought in are shown here with their own pin. And I can tap clear selections. That sort of turns off all of the pins for viewing on my map, as you can see. And then as I tap on any group, it'll be displayed on the map. So I can decide what I want to view on my map. The little information button on the right allows me to assign whatever type of pin I wish. So I'll just hit that information button and then the pin section. Here's where I can get to all the different styles and colors of pins. So I can start with my styles. Perhaps I want to see the names of my companies on the map. Then I can pick the color that I wish and I just save it. You can see now that data would show up with the corresponding pin. So just the ability to customize however you would like to view information on your map. So Salesforce automatic groups can be set up by tapping the plus sign in the top right corner of groups and then selecting automatic groups. Here you'll see, based on the objects that you've already imported into the app, in my case I had chosen accounts and leads, an a list of all of the fields associated with that object that are drop-down fields. So like a single pick list option. So here's a list of all of those, and I can turn any of those into automatic groups within the app. So this is where I was also mentioning, as you're sort of prepping your information to import into Salesforce to get your account set up, any of this kind of data that you have that are fields within your organization, if you can populate it, it will allow you to turn them into automatic groups. So for example, say it helps me to look at my account rating, if it's hot, warm, or cold. And maybe for leads, I'd like to see what the source of the lead is. And I can pick as many of these as I wish. I just tap save. And you can see now automatic groups are made for me from that data. To arrange my groups, you can see they're alphabetically, but maybe I want to see hot, warm, and cold all together. I'm just pressing and holding on the group name and dragging and dropping them how I wish to view them. And then once again, you could adjust the pins. Maybe you want your hot accounts to have red pins, cold green, etc. So just another way just to pull data from Salesforce and overlay it on your map. If an account would belong to multiple groups, as if I brought in a couple different account fields, it's going to display the pin of whichever group I have listed first. So I would want to prioritize my groups if I'm building quite a number of groups. It will show whatever group pin I have listed first and turned on. And as I mentioned, you can just drag and drop the groups to adjust them. So any questions on those automatic groups, since that's a brand new feature for you, Ryan?
No, it's great. I'll be able to, again, defer to this recording. For me, the goal is now to get the accounts in there, and then it'll probably click and make a little more sense when I'm going back and reviewing. But this is great. This is great. I mean, so all of the custom groups that I've already created will be there, and then in addition to whatever is in Salesforce now, I'll have access to that. So.
Right. So your custom groups will be there, and then as you get your accounts in the app, you can assign them to those custom groups. Absolutely. So let's just go over custom groups a little bit. I know you're pretty familiar with them, but same way you could set up a custom group would be something you want to see that's not in Salesforce. So it takes a little bit of manual work, as you just mentioned. You would need to set up the group name yourself. Once again, everything's just flows through tapping that plus sign. This time I'll select custom groups. So here you can enter the group name, whatever you wish, select the pin, and then select the members. Just tap on the members. It brings me right to my list. And I can just tap on whoever I want to assign to that custom group. And I simply would hit save. So I've set up a few, this might be data that you have in Salesforce or that you're going to load into Salesforce and could actually be custom groups. But before we end, I'll show you how you can make custom pins. But I've set up some, just to give you some ideas of how we have clients using it. I've set up high revenue accounts so I can see where they're located if I always want to keep an eye on those on the map. I made a little pin for job sites so I can see my job sites are. If you have specific information on past product history, purchase history, or products that clients are interested in, you could have different pins based on different products. We have a lot of users that track who they visited in a given month or week and who they still have to visit. So you can see the options with groups are really endless. As far as your imagination can take you, you can set up a group. And it's really a way that you can really customize and personalize the app to help you and how you need to best see your contacts and accounts and leads, etc., to be most productive in a given day.
Sure.
Now, the Salesforce groups are all built on that Salesforce data, so you really can't edit what group a contact belongs to. If you have it set as a hot account rating, it's going to show up in that group. As you know, the custom groups you can edit. I can just simply, a couple ways, I can hit that information button and see the members and change, I can add or remove members that way. Or if we go back to the contact records, let me just tap on one. At the very bottom is the group section. So I can see what groups this contact belongs to. I can tap on the word groups. And for my custom groups that I can edit, here I can just turn an on and off button if I want to change their group membership. Now, one thing to keep in mind as if you are going to be using custom groups more than the Salesforce automatic groups, if you ever delete data from the app, those contacts would be removed from your custom groups. So when I am saying deleting data, if you ever go back to these Salesforce pages where you imported your data, so for example, I imported my Illinois accounts, if I ever hit that red button and delete that data from the app, it would remove that data from my app and remove. So if ABC company is part of group A, it would take it out of that group. So if I ever bring that data back into the app, I would just have to reassign that contact to that group.
Okay.
So any questions on the grouping options that you now have?
No, other than I'd like to see those how you make custom pins. But you said
Okay.
you'll get to that at the end.
Yep,
So.
oh, absolutely. I'll cover that at the end. Okay. All right, so now we've covered importing the data, viewing your contacts, how you can organize it on the map. I'll move on to more the planning and scheduling then of your trips. So I'll just use these hot accounts to focus. So I'm just going to open up the name tags so that we can see some names on the map. So the app is going to sync with my device calendar. So in this case, my iCal, and then however each individual wishes, whatever you have your iCal set up to sync with. For example, I have mine set up with Outlook. So I can set up appointments in Outlook and they'll sync into my app and vice versa. Ryan, are you using Outlook as well for your calendar?
For our calendar, yes,
Okay.
I do use it.
Okay, so any calendar appointments you've set up will sync into the app as long as you have Outlook set up to sync to your device. So those will automatically show up. So I'm going to now move on and tap on trips. So that for this given day, I can see those appointments here in this trip list, which mirrors what you're seeing on the map. And
Marianne, wait, let me back up a second. When you're talking about Outlook, you're talking about email, right? Or the calendar that I use for the planning, like for example, that Sales Navigator communicates to, is the calendar that came with the iPad.
okay, great. Okay.
And that calendar does communicate to Salesforce because when I planned my weeks, I was able to see it in Salesforce.
Oh, great. Okay.
So I'm assuming it's the same.
Yep, you're all set then. In my case, I was talking about the Outlook calendar, but if you're syncing with your iCal on your device, you're all set. That's what the app's really pulling from.
Okay.
Your device calendar, then you have many options of where else you want to sync it externally. So it sounds like you're already set and have it synced. And that will absolutely flow into the app.
Okay.
So you're all set. So on this trip listing, it's going to show any appointments I already have set up. Now, keep in mind the appointments. Now, when you're setting up appointments with your accounts, you would obviously need to have an address associated with them so that it shows up on the map. In between each stop, it shows me my travel time, my estimated arrival time. The little information button on the right brings me to my turn-by-turn directions. And then once again, there's that arrow icon up in the tan section, which would jump me into Apple Maps for turn-by-turn with audio. Now, if you prefer other mapping programs for your turn-by-turn directions, I can show you where it will get to set that up. You can pick other options as well. I'm just going to tap at the very top, Return to Sales Navigator, and I open up in the app where I left off. And I just back out. The little So on the right is the information button to show you their turn-by-turn directions. On the left, that icon, that's a blue circle with a downward arrow, turns on and off that leg for viewing on your map. So that just gets helpful, as you might see, as we have a number of stops. Sometimes the map gets a little crowded. It might be helpful just to look at one leg at a time to see where you're going. So that's the thought there. You can set up your starting and ending locations. I'll just tap on the starting option. And this is all part of the settings that I'll show you before we finish. There's quite a bit of default settings you can set up in the app just to save you time. So I already have, for example, my Chicago home entered and my normal start and end time, which I can obviously adjust as each day is different, but that's where it's flowing from. So obviously I have some more time available in my day and I want to see some more clients. So in my case, I'm going to focus on my hot accounts. So I can tap on any of them. Let's say I was able to connect with Smith & Company and set up an appointment for this given day. So I can set up that appointment in the app as well as through iCal. So to do so in the app, just right under their word account is a calendar icon. And you'll see this is very familiar. This is very similar to how iCal sets up appointments. First, we just want to know the duration, how long you'll need at that site so we can make sure it fits into your schedule. Here I can adjust it, but I'm good with 1 hour. So I just hit next. And then here it's going to set up the new event for me. So it's pre-populating my account information, the address, the time. Let's say I've set 11 o'clock for this appointment. Oops, AM. You know, if I have any recurring appointments, I can note that here and I can add it. So you'll see the app is now going to add it to my route and my trip listing. There we go. So that's how to set up a calendar appointment, and now that appointment would show up on my iCal as well. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you ever have the case, perhaps I wasn't able to connect with the client, but I still want to get by their location, so I'm going to just do a drop-in visit. So those can be designated a little bit differently in the app. I'm going to pick the remaining clients in the immediate area and just set up drop-in visits. This would also be known as a meeting task within Salesforce. So I'm just going to open up the record again. The plus sign with the stop sign in the top right-hand corner is the meeting task icon. So when I tap on that, once again, the app's pre-filling it with as much information as it can. I already have in my settings that my drop-ins take 30 minutes. So all I really need to do is just let the app know that I want to drop in at this location. So all I'm going to do is tap done to set up that meeting task. And what the app does to start, it will just add it to the end of my schedule, as you can see. And then we're going to use our schedule optimization feature to get the best order of events for my day. So I'm just going to tap on these other nearby accounts and do the same thing, set up a meeting task. So I'm just tapping the plus stop sign. All the information's pre-populated, so I'm tapping done. Let's see, there was one down here. Okay, so I've added 3 more stops. And just one note here, when using the schedule optimizer, you do have to have at least 3 meeting tasks so it has something to optimize. You can see there's a little red warning at the bottom because I had noted that I wanted to end my day at 6:30. As I mentioned, the app starts by just adding all these to the end of my day, so it's just alerting me that I would be passing 6:30 if I went to that last visit. But no worries, because I'm going to use our schedule optimization feature. And this is one other feature, just as I mentioned about when jumping into Salesforce, you would need connectivity because it does interact with our server. I'm going to tap optimize. And this is a little different than what you might be familiar with route optimization, in that it takes into account your set appointment times, and we're not going to change those since those are already agreed upon with your client. And it's just going to shuffle the flexible meeting tasks because, as noted, they're flexible. So it's going to look at what openings you have in your schedule and see when those meeting tasks would fit in best based on the time you need for the task and their location, traveling time, etc. So you can pick to optimize on time, distance, or a blend of both. I'm going to choose time. And the app is now looking at all of those locations and travel times, etc. And it's updating my suggested trip list for the day and my route. So you can see it just rerouted me. We can look at my trip list now. It's telling me I can get to 2 of those drop-in visits, right from my home before I get to my first 11 o'clock appointment. And then right after my 11 o'clock, I can hit up my 3rd drop-in. And I can even see that I still have gaps of time in my schedule, so I could go back and select some more accounts, optimize again if I wish, just to make my schedule as full as possible in a given day. Any questions on the schedule optimization?
Nope.
Okay. If I ever need to delete any of these appointments or meeting tasks, I can simply just tap on them. Now, when I have a meeting, you'll see the contact records on the right and the meeting information's on the left. So I could just open up the meeting information. And just as in iCal, you can see if I scroll to the bottom, I can delete the event.
Yeah.
Just, obviously things change in a given day. Also, I should have noted, especially with the meeting tasks, you can see there's a little blue flag to the right. When I tap on it, it opens up. Once I complete my visit, I could tap complete, and that would note that visit as complete within Salesforce. And it's actually, you can see it took it off my list for Friday because I'm noting that I've already been there.
I noticed there was a follow-up. What is that one?
So if I want to create a follow-up task associated with this account, I can right here. In this case, it would be a follow-up visit. I can note the new date. So maybe I visited them and say, I need to go back in another week or another month just to make it easy. I can set that date and hit done. And now for March 24th, I've just set that follow-up task.
Oh, that's brilliant. Great.
And I'll show you where that shows up in one moment. I just, as I've done all those meeting tasks and such, you can see that little number 4 has now shown up next to Salesforce. That's saying that there's that data to sync into Salesforce. I'll tap on it, and if I sync it, all that data is now just synced back into Salesforce. And we can work with your Salesforce administrator. There's some settings. I think right now it's set at once you get to 50 updates, it would sync. It can be set anywhere between 1 and 50, or you can always just manually sync it like I just did.
Now, when I log a call, will that number update as well?
Yes.
Outside of appointments?
Yes, that's something you would have to sync to.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll jump and log a call next. Yeah. But first, I just want to also show you the task list. That's showing me all of my meeting tasks, phone call tasks, etc. So let's go back. I just set that one March 24th. If you remember, I did that follow-up. So there it is on my task list. I can tap on it, and there's that follow-up. So this task list is showing me all of my tasks, in a calendar fashion.
And go back to the 24th really fast, Marianne. Let's say that you just kind of picked that date out of the clear blue sky, and let's say March 24th comes around. You've got a lot on there, and you need to reschedule that for a different day. Call it the 30th. Can you just change the due date then, right?
Yep, I'll just tap on it. Or the other nice thing is, if you don't get to it and mark it as complete in a given day, it's going to flow over to your next day. So we're not going to let you forget about it. It'll show up
okay.
then on March 25th as 1 day overdue.
Okay.
So you can do either. You can reschedule, if you know you're definitely going to, go on another given day. I was just trying to see. I don't think I have any showing up as overdue. Well, unfortunately, I don't, but it would show up just with a little red notation.
Yeah. Okay.
And from this task list, you can set up new tasks if you wish. That's what anywhere you see the plus sign on any of these menu items, you could set up a new task from this area or from the actual contact record. The little down arrows under the word all, you can also just, if you just want to view, focus on one type of task, or if you're trying to find something quickly, you can,
Okay.
I can, for example, just look at my calls. In this case, I don't have any set up.
And when you were saying change the call to end, was that under the status button? Because it's a little hard to see what you're doing on the iPad on this end. So I'm assuming it was status.
Yes,
You just changed.
let me just go back there. And it happens fast. So unfortunately, as soon as I tap it, it goes quickly. I'm just going to tap on the UGI one, the flag. So you can see the flag options right there. Those are the different options. Is that where your question was? If I mark it complete?
No, actually, so go into UGI really fast.
Oh,
You were doing something in here. So under status, is that where you were saying you mark it complete?
oh yes. So here I can do it too. So I can do it just from that little quick flag, or I can open this up and mark it here as well. Tap.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
yep.
Perfect.
Just a couple different ways. You can also set the priority if it helps you. If you want to mark something as a high priority. So that UGI I just marked as a high priority, you can see now it's in red, just to try and get my attention.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so we've covered just one more thing I wanted to show you on the routing, sorry, before we move on. If at any point in my day I'm in jeopardy of being late, my route would actually turn to a different color. In my case, I have red set up as my alert. When you're planning ahead like this, so I'm planning ahead for tomorrow, the app is using historical data as far as travel times, etc. On the day of, it will take into account from Apple Maps current traffic conditions. So sometimes you might have the situation where it's the day of, you open up your map and suddenly it's red, and where yesterday it looked perfect, your plan. And that's just because we're alerting you that there's something going on out of the ordinary, that's thrown off the schedule. So that's what a red route would indicate. Okay, I think that's everything on the mapping. And just one other quick thing before we move on to tasks, because I know we want to jump into Salesforce there, and I'll show you everything, how the tasks are denoted. I'm just going to turn on a couple more accounts. You might have used this in the past as well. I'm just going to go back to my list by name because that does affect how you can view some things on the map. We've been just looking at the whole list. That's why I have the word all highlighted in the top. You could tap filtered. This would show you a list of just the groups that I have selected at the moment to view on my map. So it's matching up with what I see on my map. You can select map view, and that will create a map center that I can adjust. I'm just moving my finger around on my iPad. And as I do so, you can see my list is adjusting. This is used, if you're out and about traveling in a given day and someone cancels on you, maybe you want to see who's the next nearest client. Since you might just have a short window of time, you can just jump into map view and see who's the closest to wherever you've placed your map center. And you can see it shows you on the left-hand column the distance and the direction. And just a little trick, if you tap on any of them, you can get turn-by-turn directions right away.
Great. And
then circle view also puts a circle on the map. Once again, if I have a cancellation or I find myself with some time in my day, I can just say, who's within 3 miles of my location, and there's my list. Just just helping you focus. You might have the best plan for the day and then something goes awry, just to see who else is nearby.
Yep.
Okay. Let me just sync all of my updates. With that, then let's move into tasks. So I know that's a very important function for you to get all of your data, obviously noted back into Salesforce. So let's say, let me just open up one of my contact records again, and we'll set up a task. Let's go back to Stuart Ames. Let's say I've met with them and I want to get that noted right into Salesforce. I can tap on the task clipboard icon in the very bottom of this record. Hopefully you can see it okay on my screen. The very bottom of the record. And here I can note new tasks. For example, if I visited them and I want to note that within Salesforce, I'm just going to hit the plus sign, designate something new. And then it's, however you categorize your various visits, if it's a call or other, etc., I'll just, I'll denote it as a call. Here's where you can enter any information you wish. And I'm just going to go, just knowing that how your setup is, I'm going to just go through how you'd probably want to do this to get it the data into Salesforce in the proper fields. As you know, the app pre-fills as much as possible. The tan section is the account name and then any contact information. The third row here where it says Stuart Ames, that field is actually syncing into the subject within Salesforce. So if you just want the account name as the subject, you can leave it as is. If you want something more specific or you need something more specific in the subject, or
like a product that we talked about or something like that, right?
Right, exactly. So I'll just use that example. So you talked about product 1, 2, 3, discussion. You would put that there. Then going down, description, that area will show up as notes in your Salesforce org. So
and is that the one that Mike Estes said is key for us? That's where they, like when he goes to run a report, that's where they're going to be pulling that information from?
So the confusion was our app also has a notes option, which you can take notes in, but that will show up under notes in your Salesforce org, and that's not where it seems your reports are pulled from. They're pulled all based on these activities, and there's a comment or / note section under activity. So that's where you would enter it in this app.
Okay.
So it's noted as it just said description.
Perfect.
I'm going to enter note here.
Well, that's fairly simple then, though, Marianne. I mean, it seemed kind of like I think that we were just, it wasn't being communicated then, or there was misunderstanding, because what you just did seems like very simple to me.
Yeah. It's just terminology. I think we're all using different terminology. So once we understand.
Yeah. Okay. And then so after you enter the note, would you change the status to finished, right?
Yes, you would just want to fill it out first. And then, so you're sort of jumping around a little on the form, unfortunately. Then I'm going to hit complete. I guess you could do it. It's not going to go away until I hit done. So actually,
until you hit done, right? Yeah.
So I'm going to tap done. And so that was Stuart Ames. You can see now it's listed here in my app. And at any point, I can open it up just to review it. When you open up an account, if you need to refresh these, that's what that little circle is. It would just refresh and make sure it has the most up-to-date, all the tasks listed. Okay.
And when you click on an account, okay, so let's say I'm staring at my map, and let's say I haven't planned any follow-up calls, I haven't done anything. I'm sitting down on Sunday night and I'm saying, okay, I kind of have an idea of where, what zone I want to go on Monday. Let's say it's, Santa Monica, and I click on the account to set my appointments and everything. Let's say I clicked into an account. Am I going to see, and I have, let's say under Stuart Ames in Santa Monica, I have 10 calls that I've logged in, this year. Will I see all those calls directly from that account?
So so I'll open up Stuart Ames. I can go back to my tasks, and then I'll see all the past visits. So
Okay, but you just clicked on map though, right? What did you click on?
I tapped on the little the contact icon from the map.
Right? Yep.
Yep. And that just brought it up. And then tasks is here at the bottom.
Oh, okay. It looks like you're clicking on the billing address. That's why from on my end. Right. Okay. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm opening up the contact record. Yeah. I'm sorry. That becomes gray right away because it's on the map. I'm just tapping the tasks icon at the very bottom.
At the very bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's great. So you can. So if I'm now pulled up in front of Stuart Ames' office and I can't remember what we talked about, 4 calls ago, I can just look at it and they'll tell me the date and what we did, or as a reminder to follow up on something, right?
It'll be whatever you've entered. You can see.
Oh, that's great. All right.
Now, I thought it'd be helpful if I can just jump right into Salesforce and show you how that looks, that Stuart Ames account. If you bear with me, oh, here we go. So now I'm logged into my Salesforce organization. Can you see
Yep.
Stuart Ames? Okay. So I'm just going to refresh the page since it's been open here an hour. I'm going to go down to, oops, you know what I didn't do? Bear with me. Here's the teach. I didn't sync. Let me sync.
There you go. Yep.
Task. Okay, now let me refresh again. So there's my activity history. So the subject, as I noted, was that product 123 discussion. I could just tap on it and you'll see that same data. Here are the comments, and that's where we said to enter the notes.
Yep. That's brilliant. Oh man, that's so great. Now, but that's a view that, it's important, I get it, but I prefer, that's why I was pushing so hard for Sales Navigator, because in my opinion, other than for my company's initiatives like entering projects and opportunities and keeping up, things like that, or entering contacts, like you said, I can't do that from the app. I can pretty much do all the sales planning process and follow up directly from the app, right? Like there isn't a real need to go into Salesforce unless I have to enter a contact or enter a new account and update an opportunity or something like that, right?
Yeah, really. No, there isn't. So, the point of this is trying to make Salesforce as easy to use as possible and have you just focus on what you really need while you're.
Yeah, because that's really key is on our end is the big initiative is to log the calls so that, because guys are just, everyone's got a different way of taking notes, and this to me just seems like a very clear-cut, simple way of keeping up to date, and then you can go into Salesforce and, log a opportunity or new contact, things like that. But see, I use the notes so the notes section that you were referring to in Sales Navigator, I'm even a little different. I use that to keep up with all of my contacts because if I'm walking into an account and it syncs to my phone, I'm looking at it going,
right.
Okay, that's right. Joe's a Packer fan, and right. You know what I mean? So then I don't have to log into Salesforce or something like that. It's all right there at my fingertips.
Right. Yes, so that notes area that I was talking about, you can see when I open up an account record, that's in the lower right-hand corner. It says notes.
Yep.
Tap on that. That would be notes. But as we mentioned, and I just pulled down that updates, I can see my past notes. That won't flow into your reports. So if you.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Exactly. Great. So here I'll just pause. We talked about a lot of uses of the app. I pointed out a couple places where you would need connectivity, so jumping into Salesforce, doing the schedule optimization. But other than that, and importing data, obviously. But other than that, the app really can work offline. So if you lose connectivity during the day, you can still use the app. It's going to have the data you imported. You can open up the contact records. You can even set follow-ups. All of that would just queue up to sync to Salesforce when you have connectivity again. One suggestion I have is if you know you're going to be in an area where you're going to lose connectivity, if you know there's a pocket out there that you're going to be traveling in, if before you leave in the morning while you're still on Wi-Fi, if you just scroll around your map like I'm doing, and following my route, the app caches that map data. That will all be cached and saved. So if you lose connectivity, the app will still be able to display your map.
Yep. Okay.
And then before we get into settings, one other icon I didn't show you yet, the Earth in the lower right-hand corner icon. Here's some map options for you. So if you'd like to see points of interest, here's where you can turn it on or off, so nearby restaurants, etc., other businesses. And you can switch to satellite view of the map if you wish. So this might also be helpful when you're looking in on a job site. You can sort of zoom in and see it. In this case, I'm in a city, so I'm not going to see a job site, but you could sort of see where the entrance might be, or where you'd be able to park at it. So you can just really zoom in and get a good view of it. So that's over in the Earth icon under map settings. Okay, and I know, we started a little late, so I want to be cognizant of your time. I wanted to show you we talked about custom pins and such. Now that you've gotten a good overview of the app, I thought it'd be best sort of to end with settings. So here's where you can set up a number of your preferences that you've probably seen me use during this demo. So logging emails and calls is already set up for you within Salesforce, so that's why it's sort of grayed out. When you take notes and such, if you want it to appear larger, here's where you can adjust the size. When you're working with accounts, if you prefer to see the company name in the pin versus the name of perhaps the contact, here's where you can adjust that preference. Just moving down, accept approximate geocode result might not affect you as much. This is just if your addresses are incomplete. The app uses a high level of precision to map addresses. So if it is complete, we might return a no result for the mapping, and in which case your contact would appear in red in your list. So they really, as you do prepare your information to import into Salesforce, absolutely, if you can have zip codes and even the country field, that will help everything map precisely.
You guys have actually gotten a lot better with that, because when I started using Sales Navigator probably 4 years ago, I would beat my head against the wall because I was entering all the information and it was still showing up in red, so I'd have to delete it, re-enter it, delete it, re-enter it 5 times before just something clicked. Okay. I don't really have that problem anymore. It seems to pick it up almost instantaneously.
We've been definitely fine-tuning that over the years.
Yeah.
If you ever have incomplete addresses, this is an option you could turn on. The app will do its best to map it. So that's just an option there. Hopefully you don't have to use that one. Calendars, if you have multiple calendars that you use that are set up to your device, this is querying my device and showing me the different calendars I have set up to my iCal to sync. So if I want to see multiple calendars on my map for appointments, I could. You can see the color coding here would match the color coding of my appointment flags on the app.
Okay.
And then just real quick, if you ever need help while you're using the app, if you tap on documentation, you go right to our website, to our Salesforce version with just some reference articles, or you can jump into YouTube for videos.
Oh, good.
Or you can just tap contact us. It's an easy way to send us a quick question to our support group. And then all of your data you can see is noted there. It just helps us if we have to do any troubleshooting. We know info in your account, so we can look it up quickly. So you can just fire an email right from the app with any questions, which you'll probably have as you get up and running. I went over a lot today. Trips. This is where I set my default for all of my trip preferences. So as I talked about the route color, I can enter a home or work address, or note when I usually start in the morning and when I end, and how long my meetings last. Just helps you not have to enter more information, each day as you plan trips. So if there's some commonality that you want to enter right here, you can. And then finally, custom pins. This is where you can set up fun pins to mark your clients. So once again, you just would hit the plus sign. You can name a pin whatever you wish. You can pick, the shape of the perimeter, different color choices as you scroll through. Text, you can have a character display in the middle of the pin, so either a letter or you can jump in and use emojis. That's where I used my high revenue or construction or a Target account. You could use the Target. So that's where you can customize that.
Awesome. Okay.
Great. The color of the text, the size of the pin. As you set it up, it'll preview what your pin would look like, on the map, and then you just would save it.
Okay.
And then once you saved it, I'll just go back to the groups. Whenever you set up a new group, it would be an option under your pin. So you can see here's my custom group list. Those are the 3 I've created.
Great.
So they'll just always be there for you to select.
This is good stuff.